There are so many things happening in our courts right now, between all of the legal wranglings that are happening. I think there are 300 or 500 court cases happening right now trying to get the election laws changed because the Democrats are filing all kinds of changes to our election laws. And the Republicans are responding with their court cases to try to get those election laws held in place. And we also have all of the lawsuits that are happening because of COVID. The Christian community up in New York is coming after, again, Governor Cuomo because he has restrictions on religious gatherings. And to make his point, he used photos and he said, these are just, look at the crowds. There were crowds of Jewish people at a funeral. Look at it, and they're just stabbing them. Look at what they're doing. That's irresponsible. Yet those pictures were from 2006. What is happening to our religious freedom around the country? A guy who really can help us answer that question, who fights it every single day, is Kelly Shackelford. He's the president and CEO of First Liberty Institute and chief counsel of First Liberty Institute. Has been in front of the Supreme Court over and over again. Let me just start with the cases up in California and in New York about religious freedom. Kelly.
Glenn, thanks for having me on. We're in a real battle. I don't know if everybody remembers back, but when this whole thing started with the pandemic, we realized this is really going to be a fight because we've never had any constitutional law in a pandemic, right? I mean, there's no cases. And everybody was seeing these pictures of like the guy throwing a baseball with his kids being handcuffed in front of his children because he was in a park, and the guy on the beach coming off all by himself on a surfboard being arrested. So we tried to be really careful about the first case. And we wanted it to be the right one because we're getting all kinds of churches calling us saying, you won't believe what they're doing to us. And we got what we thought was the right case, and that was in Louisville. It was a church that was trying to do an Easter service, and they wanted to be together, but they wanted to be safe, so they did a drive-in service in their cars.
Right.
And that was the mayor of Louisville, Kentucky, said that was a crime. And the governor said they were going to send police officers to every church on Easter Sunday to write down the license plate of any car in any church parking lot, and those people would be visited by the police, and they would be quarantined to their home for 14 days. And we went, okay, this is it. This is China. You know, we this is the case. And we filed. We got a great judge. We got a great decision. He said, look, the Constitution is in place in this country. This country is built on religious freedom. And we started there, and we've now had about 10 victories in a row. But what happened is a lot of other lawsuits started getting filed that weren't necessarily as thoughtful, and they created a lot of precedent. And Glenn, I've just got to be honest, we're in a war right now all across the country of whether the government is going to control our churches. And, until we get something to the Supreme Court, I don't think we're going to have an answer because there are too many bad decisions to join the good decisions that we've won to know what's going to happen.
That is terrifying. As somebody who, goes to church on Sunday, that is truly terrifying that we are facing a time when the government can tell you exactly what you can and cannot do at church.
It is. It's, because look, if we come out of this and the law is that if a government official declares an emergency, then, your Constitution's suspended. While the emergency, climate change will be an emergency, and everything will be an emergency, right? You don't really have any freedoms at that point, and that's not the way the law is supposed to work. You've had the case. I know you probably even talked about it. The case that came out of Nevada where they were letting the casinos open, but not the churches,
right?
And so and they wouldn't take it. The Supreme Court wouldn't take the case. So I would say two things. We've got a great case that we just won last week in Washington, D.C., the first one on behalf of the church. In this case, the church, they allowed thousands of people. The mayor went with them to protest. But they would not. It was illegal for a church to hold an outdoor church service with over 100 people. And so it's just clear hypocrisy. And so We actually won a federal injunction on Friday of last week, and we're hoping we can get that to the Supreme Court, but we've got to get the right case to the Supreme Court. But also, if Amy Coney Barrett is on the Supreme Court, I feel very strongly about her on religious freedom. I think we won't have to worry about these close decisions with Roberts, saying that it's okay to open casinos, but not churches. We'll win these cases. And so there's sort of a lot going on at the same time. But I think you have to look at the Amy Coney Barrett thing from a religious freedom standpoint, in addition to everything else. And I think she will be great on religious freedom, which is the timing could not be better.
So tell me what her appointment does to the court. And for instance, if the Senate and the administration, if they have the House and the Senate and the administration, let's just say that's a landslide for the left, they are all saying they're going to take guns. Do we have the votes now in the Supreme Court to hold to the Second Amendment, the First Amendment? Do we? What's it look like?
I think we do for sure. I mean, she's written just an incredible dissent on the Second Amendment already on the Seventh Circuit. She's shown her true colors. I mean, she is an originalist. She's a Scalia. She's a don't tell me what the country wants. That's not my job. My job is to say, what does the Constitution say? What did the founders, put in place? What does it mean? You look to the original meaning of the text. You look to the original meaning of the statute, not to the PC or whatever people are in favor of. She would say, just like Scalia, if you want to change laws, then change laws, change the Constitution, but don't ask me to change the Constitution. And she's and it was in a case actually where it was about a situation where kind of the PC position would be, oh no, guy's been in prison, so he shouldn't have a right to have a firearm, once you've been in prison. And her approach was, what does the Constitution say? And here she is dissenting. She's pretty fearless on following the law. So I feel really strongly about where she would be. And again, Roberts has kind of been jumping back and forth on a lot of things recently and has made it sort of a 4-4 with Roberts jumping around. That would be over if she's on the court. You'd have 5 conservatives who really believe you go to the original meaning. And that's going to really bring us right back to the Constitution and those principles and really the foundations of our country, which I think will be a great thing for our country.
Kelly, what does it mean when we're looking at a party who says they're going to get rid of the filibuster? They won't deny that they'll pack the court. What is this election really about?
It's about, if people, I don't know if people understand what court packing is, but basically it's when you come in, you say, well, I don't like the fact that there are more conservatives on the court now than there used to be, and therefore I'm going to add 3, 4, 5 seats to the Supreme Court, which you'd have to have the House, the Senate, the presidency. You'd also have to destroy the filibuster. But that's what some of the Democrats are talking about doing, and of course what Biden and Harris have not been answering. That is a decision. People need to understand this. That is a decision to destroy the Supreme Court. Because if you add people to the Supreme Court to have a partisan advantage, then the next party that comes in is going to do the same thing. So if the Republicans come back, they'll add 5 or 6 seats. The court is no longer a legal body at that point. It's a political body. And you have taken the Supreme Court and said it's done. So people need to understand, number one, Biden needs to answer this question. It should be required of every voter should say, there's no way you even have a chance of being a president unless you answer this question. If the answer is, I'm going to destroy the Supreme Court, then unless you're wanting to overthrow the government, at least a third of the government, that's just not a decision, I would ever make. Whatever your beliefs are on these things, the rule of law will be incredible damage. I don't know what will happen in our country, but it's taking one of the 3 branches of government and really pretty much putting it underground.
We're talking to Kelly Shackelford, President and CEO of First Liberty Institute. Kelly, there is a story out. There's, in fact, 2 different stories about 2 different groups. One of them is Shut Down D.C., and they have put out a guide, Stopping the Coup. Preventing Donald Trump from stealing the election and remaining in office is likely to take mass, sustained, disruptive movements all over the country. We need to, in order to really win, we need to force some pillars of power, business, military, media, and other major institutions to decide to side with the people, or at least get out of the way. If everyday life goes on, a despot will not leave power, and there will be no incentive for real systematic changes. You want to think about what it might take to stop business as usual. There are these groups that do not believe in the Electoral College, do not believe in the court system, do not believe in the American Constitution that I can find. And they are saying they want to overthrow these things. They want the destruction. Can you tell me where the legal definition of insurrection kicks in?
Well, I mean, that's definitely it. I mean, if those things happened, I did see the president comment on this, and he said if that happens after the election, that will be shut down, immediately. Now, we'll see. I hope so. We've had 21 different presidents use, the power they have under the Insurrection Act to actually do that. I think President Trump has been trying to respect federalism at some sort, and also they want to make him a dictator, so I didn't think he wants to walk into looking like that. So he's been incredibly restrained, I think, on what he's done in these situations, like in Seattle and all these. But I think if it's after the election and that's attempted, I think he'll exercise the power that he should, that any president should, to put any of that down. I hope and I pray that it would. That nobody in the country really. I mean, this is a lunatic fringe in our country, and they shouldn't be allowed to roam free and engage in violence and looting and all this thing. I don't think the American people. I think they've had enough of that. So much so that the Democrats have even a little bit started to back away, even though that some of their base wants them to not do so.
Kelly, thank you so much. Are you foreseeing any problems with Barrett's confirmation?
Not yet. I mean, it's bizarre, the approach that is being taken, which is to say that that if Barrett's appointed to the court, that she's going to take everybody's health care away. It's just, sometimes I'm amazed that, do they think people are that stupid? It's just a bizarre argument. I mean, the case they're talking about that's up there, Amy Coney Barrett has never talked about any of the issues in that case. It's about severability, a lot of other things. The odds are huge that case won't strike down the ACA in a non-severable way. So all of it's false, and it has really nothing to do with her, but they've just decided that's their best political issue, is the issue of health care. And so they're seeing if they can scare people by saying, if you allow her on the court, you'll all lose your health care and you'll die of the coronavirus. And I'm like, do you think people are that stupid? I don't think they are.
I don't think they are either, but I'm beginning to wonder. You know what? We'll find out in November. We'll find out on November 3rd. Thank you so much, Kelly. I appreciate it.